Republicans in the state of Iowa are setting a trap to get the United States Supreme Court to overturn their ruling from many years ago legalizing same-sex marriage here in the United States. Here's what's happening. Very similar to what states did to get the court to overturn Roe versus Wade. And of course, actually, call back to that, in their ruling last summer overturning Roe versus Wade, you had Justice Thomas suggest that maybe we ought to revisit these, which included, of course, the ruling legalizing same-sex marriage. Republicans saw that as an invitation from Clarence Thomas. Bring us one of those cases and we can undo this now that we've got a supermajority. And that is exactly what Republicans in the state of Iowa have done. They have proposed legislation supported by more than half a dozen Republicans in the state. The legislation says this: in accordance with the laws of nature and nature's God, the state of Iowa recognizes the definition of marriage to be the solemnized union between one human biological male and one human biological female. That's one of two laws that have been proposed by Republicans in Iowa this week to outlaw same-sex marriage in the state, or at least to make it to where the state doesn't have to recognize it as a legal union. The goal is not just to outlaw same-sex marriage in Iowa. The goal is to wait for a group to challenge that law in court. And at that point, no matter what the outcome of those lawsuits is, it'll be appealed and appealed and appealed until it hits the Supreme Court. That is the trap that they are setting. It is the same trap that they set with their anti-abortion laws. They knew they couldn't pass these laws. They knew that it was unconstitutional according to the Supreme Court, but they did it anyway because they knew that you would have these groups, the civil liberties groups, the abortion rights groups, the same-sex marriage rights groups. They're going to immediately file suit. As well they should. I'm not saying they shouldn't. And then every lower court could decide the same thing, like, yeah, obviously this is unconstitutional, as the Supreme Court said. But then once it gets to that Supreme Court, it's no holds barred, folks. Legal precedent doesn't matter with this Supreme Court. That's what Justice Thomas signaled to Republicans last summer. He said, we can revisit any of these decisions. We can undo everything. You just got to bring us the cases. That's what these assholes in Iowa are doing. That's what this is. This isn't about, oh, we're going to respect God's law. They are setting a trap, and it's a trap that unfortunately we have no choice but to walk into. It's clever, I'll give them that. And it's also trampling on the rights of millions of Americans, but Republicans don't seem to give a damn about that. If you can't get enough Ring of Fire, we encourage everyone to subscribe to our channel for fresh video content 7 days a week. And for even more from me, you can follow me on all social media outlets, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram @FairandBalanced.